Great swords are found all across the Soul series. Historically speaking, great swords originate from Scotland. They are a symbol of physical strength and prowess. Found around the 14th century, they remained in service for centuries across most of Europe. Now insert great swords in a dark fantasy setting, add some magical effects to the great swords, and the results can be glorious. Some of the most recognized heroes and villains wield great swords in Dark Souls. Artorias, the Walker of the Abyss, wields a great sword. Gwyn, the first Lord of Cinder and the Lord of Sunlight who linked the first flame, also wields a great sword. The legendary Moonlight Greatsword is one of the most iconic weapons in the series, and it remained a great sword across the whole franchise. Even the soul of the final boss in Dark Souls 3 can be transposed into a great sword. That weapon is the Firelink Greatsword, a weapon that can be found embedded into the earth at every bonfire in the Dark Souls universe. It signifies peace, comfort, bravery, and it's a place where you can feel safe even when it's placed in the middle of hell. The Soul of Cinder represents all the brave cursed undead that transfers Lordran and Dranklade, and those who link the flame to prolong the Age of Fire. Although they were tricked in serving the gods of Dark Souls and not humanity, we cannot deny their perseverance and bravery. So in a way, the Soul of Cinder represents all of us, the players. In this video, we will examine every great sword in Dark Souls 3 and try to figure out which one of them puts the rest in shame. So, what is the best great sword in Dark Souls 3? Let's find out. Guys, before I start with the array of weaponry, let me talk about something that is pretty important. A lot of my subscribers enjoy the intros or transitions I do in some of my videos, and I'm very grateful that people enjoy them. However, all the transitions that I have done before were not possible without my YouTube friend and uploader Sanadsk. All the transitions that were done before and the one today is a collaboration between me and Sanadsk. He is the one who taught me how to do these things, and without him, I don't think I would have done them. So if you want to keep seeing these transitions and intros, I will really appreciate it if you go support his channel, and I will appreciate it even more if you subscribe to him. It will mean a lot to me. So that we got this out of the way, let's look at our first greatsword, the Executioner Greatsword, a greatsword of a demortalized executioner used for beheadings, found in the area around the Cathedral of the Deep, which is early in the game. It requires 19 strength and 13 dexterity in order to wield effectively. It has a scaling of B in strength and D in dexterity when fully upgraded, and it weighs 9 units, so it's mainly a strength weapon. To use it optimally on a meta build, either have anywhere between 50 to 66 strength with minimum dexterity, or 30 in strength and 40 in dexterity, both result in a powerful sword. In terms of damage, its damage rating is 484 with a 40-40 build, and with 66 strength and 13 dexterity, you get 466 attack rating. This is when one-handing it, of course. This will be the same for all the weapons on this list, since when you two-hand a weapon, you gain a 50% increase in your strength, which will increase your damage even further. This greatsword is quite an oddball in the greatsword category. It has a lot of special traits that is exclusive to it. Firstly, its damage type is strike instead of slash or thrust, meaning it will perform better against heavily armored opponents. It's the only greatsword that has this trait. Secondly, it has a weapon art that is exclusive to it. It is identical to the Cathedral's Ultra Greatsword battle art, which is quite odd since it imitates weapon arts from the Ultra Greatsword class. Thirdly, it gives you focus points every time an enemy dies, but this literally works for every enemy even if you are an invader. So if a host kills an enemy in his world, regardless if he has a Seed of Giant active, it will give you 3 focus points. So it can be a good tool in invasions if you want to recover your focus points. Another interesting thing about this weapon is that it cannot be infused, yet it can be buffed. My biggest gripe with this weapon is its abysmal range and lack of thrust attacks. It can be very difficult to hit someone with this weapon if they are good with their dodging. So the good things going for the Executioner Greatsword is that it inflicts strike damage, it's easily accessible to strength builds, and it recovers focus points when enemies are killed. The bad things going for it is that it has very low range, it has a very medicure weapon art for a greatsword, it has no thrust attacks, and it cannot be infused. The second greatsword on this list is a legendary dragon weapon associated with Seath the Pale Drake. It's called the Moonlight Greatsword. It's a recurring weapon in From Software games. It can be found in all of the Soulsborne franchise, but it can also be found in the Kingsfield series and in the Armored Core series. So we can already tell that this weapon is a special favorite to From Software, but it is also loved by the community too, and it is one of my favorite weapons, although my favorite version of it is in Bloodborne. It can be purchased from Ludlith in Firelink Shrine once you transpose Osiris, the Consumed King's soul. It's unique in that it scales almost entirely from the intelligence stat, therefore most of its damage is magic damage. It requires 16 in strength and 11 in dexterity and 26 in intelligence in order to wield effectively. It has a scaling of E in strength and B in intelligence when fully upgraded, and it weighs 10.5 units, so it is mainly an intelligence weapon. To use it optimally on a meta build, meet the minimum requirements in both strength and dexterity, and then pump the intelligence stat up to anywhere between 50 and 60. With 60 intelligence and 16 strength and 11 dexterity, you have an attack rating of 572. 130 damage of it is physical, and 441 of it is magical damage. Also, it's maybe the only weapon that can gain a lot of damage from equipment. The Crown of Dusk and the Magic Clutch Ring increases damage moderately when you are using it on a fully optimized build. This way, most of your weapon will deal magic damage, and this is one of the things that makes it special. With the magic damage property, you can chip damage through shields like there's no tomorrow, and since its scaling in strength is negligible, this weapon mostly inflicts the same damage when one-handed or two-handed, so it's the best weapon within the Greatsword class to use one-handed. It has one of the best ranges too, so its one-handed moveset is quite dangerous. Its charge attacks emit a beam of moonlight. It has finite range and it deals moderate damage. However, if you hit both the projectile and the attack itself, the damage can be off the scale. It can one-shot some people in PvP. It is better to teach yourself to use these projectiles while unlocked, since its tracking is very bad when locked on. These projectiles don't use focus points, but instead it uses durability. 4 durability to be exact. So in essence, it's the only weapon that needs repair powder in the whole game. At least before the latest patch, because Acid Surge became a thing, but always have them equipped if you're planning to use the projectiles. The weapon art on this weapon is also exclusive to it. It's a thrust attack accompanied with super high hyper armor frames. It's very good in trading. This, like all weapon arts, uses up focus points, so it's not using durability, don't worry. So make sure to use it efficiently and make sure to watch your blue bar while using it. Another thing that makes this weapon great is that it can always have spells to give you an edge. Since you have high intelligence, you can always use sorceries in its full potential. Now, on another note, I still don't believe that this is the real Moonlight Greatsword. It seems that it doesn't have its clean, transparent finish that it usually has. All the Moonlight Greatswords in the Dark Souls franchise inflict pure magic damage, while this one has physical damage similar to the fake Moonlight Greatsword in Dark Souls 2. This is also implied in the description. It says, Osiris the Consumed King was infatuated with a search for moonlight, but in the end, it never revealed itself to him. So the good things going for the Moonlight Greatsword is that it mainly inflicts magic damage, it has a very good range, also a very good and exclusive weapon art, and it excels when one-handed compared to other weapons in its class. The bad things going for it is it cannot be buffed nor infused, needs a lot of repair powder, and has a poor tracking on its projectiles. The third greatsword on this list is the Claymore, a historical weapon in real life and a classical weapon in the Dark Souls franchise. It's found on the High Wall of Lothric, the first area in the game, so you can grab this weapon very early on in the game. Interestingly, it is found in a place where a drake is spitting out fire like crazy, similar to how you find it in Dark Souls 1. It requires 16 in strength and 13 in dexterity in order to wield effectively. It has a scaling of C in strength and D in dexterity when fully upgraded, and it weighs 9 units. So it's mainly a quality weapon, meaning it scales best when you invest heavily in both strength and dexterity stats. This means infusing it with the refined gem is your best bet. To use it optimally on a meta build, have at least 40 in strength and 40 in dexterity, but this weapon performs rather well when infused too. Its attack rating with a 40-40 build, while infused with a refined gem, garners you an attack rating of 509. Its weapon art has two different attacks. The weapon art into an R1 is one of the best attacks in the game for guard breaks. It can guard break most shields with ease. It also inflicts a respectable amount of damage. Its other weapon art, the weapon art into an R2, is a forward thrust attack. You gain more poise when using this weapon art. It's best to use it to catch your opponent's rolls, especially after a wake up. What makes this weapon pretty solid is its heavy attacks. It's a thrust attack which is really good with great swords, so the Leo ring is a good option when using this weapon. Other than that, I'm pretty disappointed with the Claymore in this game, since its Dark Souls 1 version was way better. The good things going for the Claymore is its thrust attacks, early access, it can be infused and buffed, and it has respectable range and a versatile weapon art. The bad things going for it is its reliance on quality builds for moderate damage, and nothing really stands out with this weapon, it's just too normal. The fourth weapon on this list predates every weapon in the game. Its symbolic value outweighs every other attribute. It's a reminder of how insignificant we are in the world of Dark Souls, and it's a reminder of the few brave undead who victoriously achieved what million others couldn't. It's a testament of their perseverance and strength that took them to the path of becoming a Lord of Cinder, always thinking it's for the betterment of the world. If only they knew the truth. Its description says, "The Lords of Cinder linked the first flame, and this great sword was wielded by their deific manifestation. This coiled sword, found thrust in the bonfire, existed long before the throneless lords themselves." The Firelink Greatsword is purchased from Ludlith in Firelink Shrine after you transpose the final boss's soul, Soul of the Lords. It requires 20 in strength and 10 in dexterity, 10 in faith and 10 in intelligence in order to wield effectively. It has a scaling of D in strength and D in dexterity when fully upgraded, and it weighs 9 units. So its scaling is very low, and its base damage is quite low too, but this is kinda redeemed with its fixed fire damage. It has 162 fire damage, but even this won't rescue its low damage. Sadly, it cannot be infused nor buffed with normal means. With a 40-40 build, your attack rating is 543, 381 of it is physical damage, and the rest is fire. Its weapon art is super awesome and exclusive to this weapon. It creates a straight line of fire in front of you. It knocks down most humanoid enemies and stun locks the rest. It's particularly useful in PvE since it can hit the same enemy twice, sometimes more. You can also chain it with your attack for even higher damage. It can also be fun for trolling people in PvP where you try to knock them down from ledges. It also buffs your weapon with 80 fire damage for about 45 seconds. Try to aim to play with this weapon while it's buffed to get the most out of it. The only time this weapon shines is when you PvP with it on low levels, or by fighting enemies who are weak against fire. Other than that, this weapon is low tier in the Greatsword class. Even its moveset is very lacking, with no thrust attacks and moderate range. Its weapon art is its only big asset. The good things going for the Firelink Greatsword is its super awesome and exclusive weapon art. It's a good tool in knocking down enemies from afar, and it's good against enemies weak to fire. The bad things going for it is its weak moveset, it cannot be infused nor buffed, and its low split damage.
Hi, I'm Sanadsk, and I'm going to be talking about the fifth weapon of this list, which is one of my favorite greatswords of all time, the Wolf Knight Greatsword. Swallowed by the dark with its master, Knight Artorias, this sword is tainted by the dark of the Abyss, and the undead legion of Farron was formed to bear his torch. You can acquire this weapon by transposing the soul of the Abyss Watchers from Ludlith in Firelink Shrine. It needs 24 strength and 18 dexterity to wield, and has C scaling on both strength and dexterity when fully upgraded, so naturally it is a quality weapon. It also has an attack rating of 523 when having 40 strength and dex. Now, this weapon has been in Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3, and every greatsword has a story of a great hero hidden within its blade. In Dark Souls 1, Knight Artorias wasn't just a boss fight. From Software nailed it with the backstory of this character. A knight who sacrificed himself in order to protect his comrades. Even though he had a will of steel, it wasn't enough to resist the dark of the abyss. And just an example to show how deep From Software thought of this character is that if you save Artorias' wolf Sif from the abyss in the past and then you go and fight him in the present, you get an alternate cutscene where he recognizes your scent, and it is just a dramatic cutscene and a very little detail and addition, but has huge effects to the fans of the game. And I am obsessed with finding and showcasing unused content in the files of the game. And of the few examples that there is unused dialogue for Artorias where he asks forgiveness from his comrade as he failed to protect them. And it is just plain sad that how he talks and how he talks to his wolf, Sif, and all of that, and it makes you feel really bad for the character. There is also another Artorias greatsword in the files of Dark Souls 3 which has lower damage than the actual greatsword, which is kinda weird in my opinion to be there, and if only it was the non-corrupted version of the greatsword, because that would have been 10 times more epic. So if you share this crazy obsession of mine of the unused content too, make sure you give my channel a visit. I already have tons of Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3 unused content videos, and they are gonna blow your mind with what From Software hides within their files. And there are still many cool things that I'm going to be uploading about in the near future. Now, in Dark Souls 3, the greatsword acts very similar to its Dark Souls 1 counterpart, but they switched the combos for it as Dark Souls 3 introduced the weapon art mechanic. And it has 2 unique weapon arts which lets you become a literal acrobat in the game. Also, it is one of the very few weapons that does 20% extra damage to abyssal enemies. So the good things about this sword is its high damage, very unique moveset, and has an extra kick for PvE players as well. The bad things is that it can't be infused nor buffed, and you have to allocate a lot of stats to get the full potential of this weapon. So, thanks for taking the time listening to me, and thank you PvPSkillz for giving me the opportunity to be in your video. See you later, bro.
The 6th weapon on this list is so exquisite to the point where you don't want to ever miss a greatsword of this caliber. A sword forged from the reunion of 2 souls and swords, heaped in strength. The 2 souls shared the same blood, but had very different lives. One a knight who single-handedly defeated the demon prince. His weapon was cast in smoldering molten steel and stained black. The other soul had his destiny predetermined by his family members, but he rejected his destiny. His weapon was meant for him as a champion, as that was expected of him, but the blessed platinum sword was never deployed. By meshing the 2 swords together, you get the Twin Princess Greatsword. This is such a cool weapon. I already made the video for this showcasing it in depth, so make sure to check that one out. In order to get this weapon, you need the Lorien Greatsword and Lothric's Holy Sword. So basically you need to defeat the Lorien and Lothric boss fights twice, meaning you can only get it in NG+ if you don't know somebody who can drop it for you. After that, you can purchase it from Bloodlith and Firelink Shrine. It requires 22 in strength and 14 in dexterity in order to wield effectively. It has a scaling of D in strength, D in dexterity, D in faith, and D in intelligence when fully upgraded, and it weighs 9.5 units. This weapon has low scaling too, but this is outshined by its versatility. With a 40-40 build with 10 faith and intelligence, you get an attack rating of 542. 377 of it is physical damage and 164 of it is fire damage. So this weapon has low damage on a 40-40 build, but you can always get more damage by increasing your faith and intelligence stats. With 40 across all 4 stats, you get an attack rating of 612. With 99 across all 4 stats, you get an attack rating of 689. So 40 across all 4 stats seems to be the sweet spot if you don't care about your level. But for a meta level build, it is best to have 40 in both strength and dexterity, and the rest is up to you. Its moveset is also weak as it's identical to the Firelink Greatsword minus the weapon art. What really makes this weapon rise above its weaknesses is its weapon arts. Its weapon art into an R1 is crazy good. It's extremely fast and gives you a range attack at any time as long as you have sufficient focus points. So it's always a good idea to have some Ashen Estus flasks or level up your attunement stats for more focus points. Its other weapon art is a fire damaging attack. It gives you a ton of poise, and in the video I did on this weapon, I kinda underestimated this attack, but now I think it's a pretty solid move. You really do gain a top of the range hyper armor with this, which basically means you can trade attacks with mostly any weapon in the game, and that's without me mentioning that it does a ton of damage. I don't know if you noticed, but these weapon arts are directly taken from the two original weapons of Lorien and Lothric, which is pretty cool. Also, the idea of combining two weapons and getting a super awesome weapon out of it originated in Demon Souls, at least in this series, so this is a jab to Demon Souls. The good things going for the Twin Princess's Greatsword is its awesome weapon art, its amazing versatility, it can trade hits reliably, has a range option, and it looks fabulous. The bad things going for it is its low damage, it cannot be buffed nor infused, and its weak base moveset. The 7th weapon on this list is the Bastard Sword, another weapon found across the whole series. It never was popular though. You can buy it from Grey Rat once he comes to Firelink Shrine. It requires 16 in strength and 10 in dexterity in order to wield effectively. It has a scaling of C in strength and D in dexterity when fully upgraded, and it weighs 8 units. A refined Bastard Sword with a 40-40 build has an attack rating of 509. It has an exclusive weapon art for its class. The Stomp weapon art is primarily found within the Ultra Greatsword class. It actually works pretty well with the Bastard Sword, as the hyper armor on this attack is extremely high. It has the same moveset as the Firelink Sword minus the weapon art, so again its moveset is weak, plus its range is bad too. The good things going for the Bastard Sword is its low requirements to wield, lower than average weight, and its exclusive weapon art. The bad things going for it is its very low range and its weak moveset. The 8th weapon on this list is the Hollow Slayer Greatsword. Used for a lifetime by a masked knight, harbors the fears that lurk within the mind of hollows. This weapon makes a return from Dark Souls 2. Although it was called Mira's Greatsword, it was wielded by Lucatil of Mira. She was hollow and was looking for a cure to the curse, just like ourselves in Dark Souls 2. You can witness the different stages of hollowing that she goes through, and in the end, she eventually becomes hollow. In Dark Souls 3, we get this weapon after defeating the cursed rotted Greatwood boss fight and then offering its soul to Ludlith in Firelink Shrine. I really still don't know why you get this weapon from this particular boss, although the description does talk about how it harbors the fears that lurk within the mind of hollows, but still, for me, it still doesn't make sense. If you have any idea why that is, please let us know in the comment section below, but I bet it has something to do with the Mound Maker's Covenant. The Hollow Slayer Greatsword requires 14 in strength and 18 in dexterity in order to wield effectively. It has a scaling of D in strength and C in dexterity when fully upgraded, and it weighs 8.5 units. With a 40-40 build, this weapon has an attack rating of 516. This greatsword has way too many perks. To begin with, it inflicts 50% more damage against hollowed enemies, and trust me, there is a lot of hollowed enemies in Dark Souls 3. Even some bosses are hollows, such as the Deacons and the Cathedral of the Deep. This is of course exclusive to PvE, as it doesn't work on hollowed human players. It has a unique moveset only shared by one other greatsword. Its two-handed light attacks are the same as Dark Souls 2 greatswords, which is awesome. I really like that. Oddly enough, its one-handed and two-handed light attacks consume the same amount of stamina, which is 26 per attack. This is really weird, as 99% of the weapons in the game doesn't function like that. Another perk this weapon has is that you gain quicker hyper armor with every consecutive hit you do with your two-handed light attacks. This means you become a bit more powerful every time you attack until you repeat the same animation as the first attack. This is yet another thing that is unique to this weapon. Another interesting thing is that it has 3 different attack animations when attacking with light attacks two-handed. Very few weapons can do that in the Soul series. The Hollow Slayer's Greatsword's heavy attacks are the sweet thrust attacks. Even its rolling attacks are delayed thrust attacks. So this in essence is the perfect weapon to use with the Leo Ring, and you will notice its impact pretty quickly when you first use it. So the good things going for the Hollow Greatsword is its unique moveset, its low stamina consumption, its awesome thrust attacks, its super high damage on counters, it does 50% more damage against hollowed enemies, it can be obtained very early on in the game, and it's very solid and consistent damage. The bad things going for it is that it cannot be buffed nor infused. The 9th greatsword on this list is the Flamberge, another weapon found across the whole series. an undulating blade resembling flame, was crafted to mutilate flesh and induce bleeding. So this is the main bleed weapon within the Greatsword class. It is a drop from Flamberge wielding thralls that can be found in multiple areas in the game. The Undead Settlement is the earliest encounter with them. The Flamberge requires 15 in strength and 14 in dexterity in order to wield effectively. It has a scaling of D in strength and D in dexterity when fully upgraded, and it weighs 8.5 units. When refined with a 40-40 build, this weapon has an attack rating of 494. The Flamberge is best to use in two ways. You either use it on a quality build and infuse it with a refined gem, or you use it with a hollow build for more bleed buildup. Both almost have the same damage, where the hollow version does a bit less damage. It has the same moveset as the Firelink Greatsword. I don't know if you noticed this by now, but this moveset is very common within the Greatsword class, and I dislike it because it lacks thrust attacks, and because the heavy one-handed attacks and all the rolling attacks are kinda weak. Its two-handed heavy attacks is not bad though, but still nothing great. Its weapon art is identical to the Claymores and Hollow Slayer's weapon art, so that helps this weapon in a way. This weapon really works well when you pair it with another fast bleed weapon on your other hand, like for example the Barbed Straight Sword. Also, buffing it with Karthus Rouge makes it much more dangerous in terms of bleed buildup, so make sure to have Karthus Rouge equipped while using the Flamberge. The good things going for the Flamberge is it's the best pick for a bleeding greatsword. It has solid damage for a bleed weapon, can be infused and buffed, and it looks super fabulous. The bad things going for it is its weak moveset and its lack of special attacks. The 10th weapon on this list is the Black Knight Sword. This greatsword can also be found in Dark Souls 1. It is wielded by Black Knights and it's designed to fight Chaos Demons as it inflicts 20% extra damage to them. It is found on a corpse in Smoldering Lake. The Black Knight Sword requires 20 in strength and 18 in dexterity in order to wield effectively. It has a scaling of C in strength and D in dexterity when fully upgraded, and it weighs 10 units. With a 40-40 build, this weapon has an attack rating of 542. The weapon art on the Black Knight Sword is Perseverance. It is the only greatsword in the game that possesses this weapon art. It is usually found in Great Hammers, but the difference is that the Great Hammers are very slow to swing, while the Black Knight Sword is much faster. This weapon art gives you an immense amount of poise. It is definitely one of the best weapon arts in the game. Although it reduces your damage, you can trade with almost any enemy in the game like a freaking boss. And on top of all that, you can activate it very quickly. You can literally use it between your attacks and you'll be fine. Mastering when to use this weapon art opens up a lot of options to you. It is actually one of the only ways in the game where you can poise backstab, similar to how it was in Dark Souls 1, so always watch out when you're fighting this weapon as it can be very dangerous. Another cool thing about this weapon is that it has exclusive heavy attacks, and damn they are good. The one-handed version starts with a normal horizontal swing, but the follow-up is a thrust attack. It works amazingly in baiting opponents in PvP, and top of all that, it deals respectable amount of damage. Its two-handed counterpart is not as good, but it's different enough to make your opponents mess up their dodge timings. Did I also mention that it has one of the highest attack ratings within the Greatsword class? Plus, it inflicts 20% extra damage against demons, so this weapon makes an area like Smoldering Lake much easier to go through. The good things going for the Black Knight Sword is that it deals 20% more damage against demons, it has very high damage, it has one of the best exclusive weapon arts and exclusive heavy attacks. The bad things going for it is that it cannot be infused nor buffed, and it requires Twinkling Tetanite to upgrade, and it has high requirements to wield effectively. The 11th greatsword on this list is the Storm Ruler, or it's also known as the Giant Slayer for residual strength of storm that brings giants to its knees. It is found in Profane Capital inside the boss room. Interestingly, the Storm Ruler requires 0 in strength and 0 in dexterity in order to wield effectively, so any character in the game can use it. It has a scaling of C in strength and D in dexterity when fully upgraded, and it weighs 8 units. With a 40-40 build, this weapon has an attack rating of 451. The Storm Ruler is a gimmick weapon, and its primary purpose in the game is to defeat Yorm the Giant. Other than that, this weapon is just outclassed by every other greatsword in the game, so there's no reason to use it unless you want to use the cool effect you get on it by buffing it with the weapon art. There was a similar weapon found in Demon Souls which also bared the same name and has the same purpose. You needed to defeat a specific boss. So this was super cool idea, and anyone who played Demon Souls can immediately notice this when they first pick up this weapon. The good things going for the Storm Ruler is it helps you to defeat Yorm the Giant and that it has no requirements in order to use it. The bad things going for it is that it's outclassed in every way by other greatswords. The 12th weapon on this list is the Drake Blood Greatsword. This blade is engraved with a script symbolizing dragon blood. This is yet another callback weapon from Dark Souls 2. It was wielded by the Drake Blood enemies in Shulva. It is a drop by Drake Blood Knights in Archdragon Peak. The Drake Blood Greatsword requires 18 in strength and 16 in dexterity in order to wield effectively. It has a scaling of D in strength and D in dexterity when fully upgraded, and it weighs 6 units, making it the lightest greatsword in the game. When refined with a 40-40 build, this weapon has an attack rating of 587. 303 of it is physical damage, 142 of it is magic, and another 142 of it is lightning. This weapon is unique in many ways. It has a fixed attack rating in magic and lightning, although it has no scaling to them. Unless you infuse it with elemental gems, then it can scale with intelligence and faith. The best way to play this weapon on a meta level build is to either meet its minimum requirements and then infuse it with raw gem, and then buffing it with either lightning blade or dark moon blade with a high faith build, or buff it with a crystal magic weapon with a high intelligence build. Since this weapon already inflicts magic and lightning, buffs can add a lot of damage to it. The other way is to have a dexterity and faith build, infuse it with sharp, and then buff it with either lightning or magic. Also at higher levels, this weapon can deal a lot of damage when properly used, especially when you compare it to its very low weight. Even if you don't want to commit to a faith or intelligence build, you can still buff it with resins. Lightning and magic / pale resins work really well with it. Its whole moveset plus its weapon art is identical to the Hollow Slayer Greatsword, so it gains all the benefits we mentioned in the Hollow Slayer Greatsword section. So this weapon has a very good moveset, and I like to think of this weapon as the counterpart of the Hollow Slayer Greatsword, since it can be buffed and infused while Hollow Slayer Greatsword cannot. Interestingly too, this weapon can deal all types of damage if you buff it and infuse it in the right way. It's nothing powerful. On the contrary, it's the total opposite, as you have way too many attack types, meaning you have to deal with multiple enemy defenses. The good things going for the Drake Blood Greatsword is that it can be infused and buffed, has an awesome moveset, buffing it makes it really powerful, it's the lightest greatsword in the game, and it works really well with the faith or intelligence build. The bad things going for it is that it deals very low damage if not used with the right build, and it relies heavily on buffs to make it work. The 13th greatsword on this list is the Greatsword of Judgment, a ceremonial sword held in Pontiff Sullivan's left hand, representing the judgment of the moon, but with magic far closer to sorcery than any existing lunar power. Its dark blue hues, deeper than the darkest moon, reflect Sorcerer Sullivan's true nature. The self-appointed Pontiff Sullivan might be the most evil character in the Dark Souls series, so wielding this weapon will make you feel like a total badass. It is purchased from Ludlet in Firelink Shrine after you offer Pontiff Sullivan's soul to him. The Greatsword of Judgment requires 17 in strength and 15 in dexterity and 12 in intelligence in order to wield effectively. It has a scaling of D in strength and D in dexterity and C in intelligence when fully upgraded, and it weighs 9 units. With 17 strength, 15 dexterity and 60 intelligence build, this weapon has an attack rating of 506. 242 of it is physical damage, while 263 of it is magic damage. With a 40-40 build with 60 intelligence, it has an attack rating of 612. With 99 in all 3 stats, it has an attack rating of 680. It has 2 weapon arts. The light version is a unique long-range thrust attack, while the heavy version launches a ranged beam of magic. Both of these weapon arts buff your sword with 80 magic damage for about 40 seconds. This is what makes this weapon super unique. It has the same moveset as the Firelink Greatsword minus the weapon art. The best way to use this weapon on a meta build is to meet the minimum requirements for its strength and dexterity stats, and then level up intelligence anywhere between 50 and 60. The weapon buff that you get from its weapon art makes it one of the best weapons for low level invasions. The good things going for the Greatsword of Judgment is its exclusive weapon arts, its affinity to magic builds, and it's very powerful in low level fights. The bad things going for it is it cannot be buffed nor infused, its split damage, and its weak moveset. The 14th and final greatsword on this list is Wolnir's Holy Sword, eroded by the Abyss, found by transposing Wolnir's soul with Ludleth in Firelink Shrine. Wolnir's greatsword requires 13 in strength, 13 in dexterity, and 13 in faith in order to wield effectively. It has a scaling of C in strength and E in dexterity and C in faith when fully upgraded, and it weighs 7.5 units. With 40 strength, 13 dexterity, and 40 faith build, this weapon has an attack rating of 496. Most of the footage I'm using here is after the patch on 21st of October 2016, which buffed its weapon art. This weapon got buffed in terms of damage before in a different patch. Its weapon art is similar to the Wrath of the Gods spell. The last patch increased its radius, so now you can hit enemies with it from further away. Most of the weapon art's impact goes right in front of you, so try to predict your enemy movements if you're trying to hit somebody with it. But until now, this weapon art basically makes you a sitting duck, so only use it in a surprise attack. This weapon is best on a strength/faith build, so having 40 in strength and 40 in faith is the way to go with this weapon. Wolnir's Holy Sword has the same moveset as the Firelink Greatsword minus the weapon art. It also has one of the best ranges within the Greatsword class. The good things going for Wolnir's Holy Sword is that it has one of the best ranges within the Greatsword class. It also caters to strength/faith builds, and it weighs lower than most Greatswords, and most importantly, it looks awesome aesthetically. The bad things going for it is its kinda bad exclusive weapon art, its weak moveset, and it cannot be buffed nor infused. So those are all the greatswords in the game. Before I tell you what I think is the best one, let me just tell you a couple of important things in regards to greatswords. First thing is the greatsword class got a small buff in the last patch. They sped up consecutive attacks, but it's very minor, so don't worry about it. The second thing is that the greatswords have hyper armor frames when it's two-handed. So since the last patch, they changed how poise works. Wearing armor with poise is a good idea now when wielding greatswords, as low poise makes your hyper armor frames much weaker. The final thing is the greatswords are easily outranged, especially against spears. That's why I think thrust attacks are very important on greatswords, as it at least can fight long-ranged weapons. But when you are using something like the Executioner Greatsword, which has no thrust attacks, you will most likely have a very tough time against ranged weapons like the Gargoyle Flame Spear, for example. So always have other better suited weapons against ranged weaponry just in case. So ladies and gentlemen, what is the best greatsword in Dark Souls 3? I'll give you a second to guess. The best greatsword in Dark Souls 3 is the Hollow Slayer Greatsword. This weapon is just everything you need from a greatsword. High damage, thrust attacks, awesome hyper armor heavy moveset. It just has way too many perks, and that's what makes it rise above the rest. Also, it's not dependent on buffs, so you can pick up this weapon with any quality build and you will perform really well with it. I know a lot of people expected this weapon to win, as it's well known how powerful it is. If I wanted to choose a number 2 weapon, that will be the Black Knight Sword for me, but this is still debatable. So please let me know if you agree with my pick, and also don't forget to check out my best Ultra Greatsword Dark Souls 3 video and the best Greatsword Dark Souls 2 video. I hope you enjoyed this video. The DLC is almost out as I'm making this video, so make sure to like and subscribe, as I will be uploading a ton of content after the DLC release. So I will see you in my next video. Farewell.